to buy health insurance. And so you get to keep it, and you get to be compensated twice. All righty. Let's go back to, are there any other items laying around? Did you buy one of those grabbers? Put that down on the list to the attorney. Something that will reacher. One of the great pieces of advice that my physical therapist gave me is, don't just buy one and then when you lose it, you're stuck. She said, buy 3 or 4. They're only $12 each, and you get compensation from your health insurance for them. So she said, buy them and have them in different rooms in the house. So wherever you are, you don't have to walk into another room to get it, to bring it out to reach something. Whatever room you're in, there's probably one of your 4 or 5 reachers laying around, and that is much safer, so you don't have to take long walks in the walker to get the reacher. And they really don't like that because that reacher has to be held with one hand, which means now you're walking the walker in the walker with one hand, which is really dangerous. The physical therapists do not like that. So remember, if you've paid any Uber car deliveries, have they driven you anywhere? You want to include that to your attorney. You want to get it to them. I would say no later than the end of business day today. That's the 4th. Next, you want to say if you have had anybody do errands for you, because there are a lot of people out there, believe it or not. I didn't know this. There are services that you can hire. There are people that'll do almost anything for you, and they'll put it on your credit card. Some of them can be gotten through a Home Advisor and Angie's List and things like that. And they'll do all those things that you need to do, like bring the printer in from the garage into the living room so that you can use it because it's too heavy. You can't lift anything like that yourself. So there are people that will do that. Those bills that you paid for people to do things for you during your whether it's the period following your surgery or if you had to do that prior to the surgery due to the hip, get those over to your attorney and let your attorney add them in as part of your claim. We're running against the wall here. We have only just a few more days to get a complete, total picture of what our financial losses were due to this lousy Depuy Pinnacle and let Judge Kincaid figure out a solution. I got a letter that from 3 weeks ago from somebody named Sherry. Very nice, thank you. It's actually an email, but we printed it out on. So, and it asks what I consider a pretty good question. Can Judge Ed Kincaid, after Friday, when he goes through all of our cases, one at a time, looks through them, will he be publishing a number that he thinks it's worth? I don't think he can do that, but I do not know is the answer. It's a great question. But I said, here's what I think is going to happen. There's 2 different roads he could take, and I don't know which one is his choice. But here's what we're looking at. He's going to go through all of the cases, probably, let's say, 20 or 25 at a time on the first week, which is the week after the 8th. Then he'll bring in the lawyers on those 25 and sit them down over the week. Could be in his office, could be in the courtroom, could be in could be in a side office, and say, all right, let's settle these cases one at a time. Mr. Smith from Depuy, what are you offering on this first case here? Well, we're offering $120,000. Oh, Mr. Smith, please, no case is worth $120,000 where your people that you've tried to defend against have come up with $100 million in verdict. Yeah, I guess that's true. So then he goes to the attorney, your attorney, or the person for the attorney for the person injured, and he says, no, $100,000 won't do it in this case, but we're looking for about $1.5 million. And Judge Kincaid will, pretend some shock. $1.5 million? What are you? No, this case is worth about $750,000 dripping wet. Are you willing to come up to $750,000? And he goes back to the attorney for the Johnson & Johnson. Are you willing to come up with $750,000? No. I think I can call my claims manager, and if I'm lucky, I think I could get it up to about 3. 3? Well, 3 is not going to solve anything, but let's get that 3 on the table, because if it's on the table, we're that much closer to settling the case. And if you put 3 on the table, I'm then going to go back to the lawyer for the injured party, and I'm going to get him to come down. And that's the way these things settle. Okay? So a little time goes by, everybody gets some coffee, except for the lawyer for the insurance company. He comes back in the room and says, okay, I talked to my claims manager on this case. He says they will go $300,000. All right. We're getting somewhere. All right. Now, attorney for the injured person, we've got an offer of $300,000. Now, that's some serious money. That is serious money. It's not joking around now. You're going to take it, you think? No, Your Honor, we wouldn't even consider it. We're not taking less than we'll go $1 million. $1 million? No, this case is not worth $1 million. There's no permanent disability. There's no permanent scarring. There's no evidence the person is in terrible pain. No, we're not going to get to $1 million. I'll tell you what, I think I can get this case to settle for around $500,000. You tell your client that if we settle for $500,000 today, they will probably have the money in their bank account by next Tuesday. And that's how judges do these things. That was just a sample. That was more of a play, a little acting on my part for you. But I have been and participated in at least 100 of these settlement conferences. I think it's a lot more than that, but I'll guess at least 100. And that's the way they go. That is exactly how they go. And the part I like is when all of a sudden somebody hits the button and the other side says, and they stick their hand out. That's usually what happens. That's so many times I've seen that. They go, or well, and they get quiet and they just stick their hand out. And then the insurance person sticks their hand out and they shake, and that's the end of the case. Boom. And that's what's going to happen with this, is what I believe. So I think that's how Kincaid is going to clear these up, just like Superman. Well, that's all I have to say today. I know this was a very short episode, but I did want to give you a little lesson on how to... and when we get to the end, I forgot. When you get to the end, you're going to total all of your expenses up. You're going to check that total 10 times. Nothing will make you look dumber to your attorney, or even if the attorney, unfortunately, lets the court see the letter. I doubt it, because it's attorney-client privilege, but you want to make sure you check that math 10 times so that you've got a mathematically correct sum for all of the expenses you want that person to see. Should probably be all paper, buttressed expenses, but that's what you want to have so that you can show your attorney that you have proof of these expenses. And you want to get those to your attorney, as I said, and then I would, if I were you, do 2 things. I would first give my attorney a call, maybe on Wednesday, to just make sure, did you get those before the court so that they are included in the deadline that's coming this Friday? But more than that, how many of us have checked to see if our attorney got our specials package before the court already? If our attorney has not yet finished coming up with our specials, with our damages, and he's waiting till the last minute, that is some terrible attorneyizing. That should have been done long ago. And like I said, I'd mentioned this last time, the sign of terrible attorneys are the ones who come rushing in at 4:30 on Friday to Judge Kincaid's office and say, oh, wait, Judge, I just finished it. We just finished it here. We ran off the copies at the so-and-so, and we mailed a copy off to the other side, to Depuy Pinnacle. So, Judge, here's our specials. They should have had this done years ago, okay? If you find out your attorney did that, well, write a letter in and we'll read it to the people on the Depuy Pinnacle HIP Litigation podcast. I want to thank you all for listening. If you'd like to chip in towards the expense of making the show, you can't. We don't take any money, but thank you. Listen, next month when we will have a surgeon, Dr. Sumit Rana is considering being on the show. And we will also have one of the attorneys who's represented people in this case, who won large chunks of money, is tentatively appearing on the podcast. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask them, if you'll just continue to send them to my email address, which is hiplitigation@gmail.com. I want to thank you for listening, and you have a good week, and we'll see you next week.